Candy. The Mandela Error. The heat had a way of bending time in the Karoo. Everything shimmered, rocks, grass, even the wind, distorted as though nature itself was uncertain of its own memories. At the edge of a forgotten plain, in a shallow basin beneath a rust-colored kopje, Themba stood ankle-deep in red dust. In one hand, he held the faded photograph of his older brother Sipho, grinning wide with a raised fist. In the other, a pickaxe. This place wasn't on any map. He had followed a series of half-truths, whispers from elderly villagers who claimed the Khoisan knew the land's bones better than the dead. They'd spoken of the time mouth, a cursed place, or a holy one, depending on who you asked. Some said it was where dreams were born, others claimed it swallowed them whole. Themba wasn't interested in stories. He was interested in truth, especially the kind the government was trying to bury beneath propaganda and lies. It was June 1989. Nelson Mandela was still imprisoned on Robben Island. The ANC was still outlawed. Police raids were a nightly ritual in the townships. Blood soaked the dust, and hope was a dangerous possession. Themba had joined the underground youth wing of the UDF 2 years ago. He had carried messages, organized sit-ins, and watched friends disappear into the maw of detention without trial. His brother Sipho, bold and radiant, had been the one to inspire him, until he vanished. Some said he was dead. Others whispered he had crossed over, a cryptic phrase Themba didn't understand until he read the note left hidden in the spine of Sipho's old journal. Seek the time mouth, Candy knows. Candy was a ghost, an urban legend passed between youth and whispers, a girl with red braids and yellow eyes who could see memory. It was said she walked between timelines, slipping through realities like doorways. To the security branch, the name was a joke. To those who believed, it was gospel. Themba dropped the pickaxe and knelt. Something gleamed just beneath the surface, a round, flat stone carved with spiraling glyphs. His fingers trembled as he brushed the dust away. The glyphs pulsed, softly like a heartbeat. Suddenly, the air collapsed inward, a soundless pop. The stone cracked open, and a light poured out that had no color and every color, all at once. He tried to stand, but the world twisted, sucked inward, and Themba felt his body dissolve into memory itself. When he awoke, he was still in the Karoo, but not. The basin was greener, full of short grass and flowering aloe. Birds he couldn't name darted overhead. The heat was present, but somehow kinder. At first, he thought he had passed out, dreamed the whole thing. Then he heard the voices, distant at first, then closer. "They say Mandela's going to speak again this evening," someone said. "At the old Union buildings. He's calling for disarmament, but the MK say no way." Themba's blood ran cold. Mandela speaking? Disarmament? He found a road, tarred and well-kept. A sign read, "Nelson Mandela District, Free State of Azania." Something was wrong, very wrong. In the nearest town, he found newspapers in English and isiXhosa. The date was June 14, 1989. But everything else was wrong. The headline screamed, "10 years free, Azania in crisis, and Mandela warns of no peace without justice." He read in horror. In this timeline, Mandela had been released in 1979, a full decade earlier. The apartheid regime had collapsed swiftly under international pressure, but the cost had been enormous. There had been no Truth and Reconciliation Commission, no peaceful transition. The ANC's military wing had seized key cities. White paramilitaries retaliated. A civil war had torn through the provinces. Pretoria had been bombed. Cape Town burned. The country had fractured. Mandela had become something else, not the peaceful icon of Themba's memories, but a wartime leader, weary and uncompromising. Photographs showed a man aged beyond his years, flanked by armed guards. His speeches were laced with fire, not forgiveness. Themba felt his stomach twist. Later that day, in a quiet cafe built from salvaged bus parts, he met her, Candy. She looked exactly as described, red braids, yellow irises like candle flames. She sat across from him without invitation, sipping from a chipped ceramic cup. She didn't blink. "You're far from your home," she said in a flat voice. "You know me?" Candy tilted her head. "I know who you were, what you could be. That's not the same." He leaned forward. "What is this place?" "This is memory," she said simply. "A possibility that once burned bright and then was buried. You stepped into the time mouth. You didn't just fall back. You fell sideways." "Why show me this?" Themba asked. "Why this version?" Candy didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, "This world remembers pain too clearly, so it repeats it over and over." "But isn't this what we wanted?" Themba asked. "Mandela free. Apartheid ended." Candy narrowed her eyes. "You wanted justice, but you forgot the cost of rage." He didn't sleep that night. The city beyond the safe district, the one now called New Karoo, hummed with tension. Armored cars rolled through the streets. Militias moved with impunity. The news replayed Mandela's speech, where he warned that any ceasefire would be temporary unless the wounds of the past were treated with truth. That phrase chilled Themba. There had been no truth here, only revenge. He traveled, crossed provinces where fences had been torn down but replaced with checkpoints. In some towns, black flags flew beside burning heaps of old government records. In others, the scars of white flight and internal displacement were everywhere. The land was free but bitter. He found records of his brother. Sipho had crossed into this world through the time mouth too. He had become a field commander for the Umkhonto we-Sizwe. He had fought in the siege of Pietermaritzburg. He had been declared a hero and died in 1983. Themba collapsed in an alley behind a bar in Thokoza, retching from grief. This world had taken his brother and turned him into a martyr, just like the one he came from. Candy found him again. "Do you want to go back?" she asked. "I don't know." "If you do," she said, "you'll remember this place, but it will fade. It always does. But you'll still have a choice. You can try again. You can tell people what you saw. But history is stubborn, and so are people." Themba looked up. "And if I stay, you'll forget who you were. This place will take you. Memory becomes matter here." "What happened to my brother?" Candy closed her eyes. "He chose to stay. He believed he could fix this world. He believed that revolution without forgiveness could work. He died fighting a battle that was already lost." Themba clenched his fists. "Why show us these places? Why let us come here?" Candy didn't smile. "Because the only real change begins when people remember differently." That night, Themba stood at the edge of another time mouth, a swirling tear in the air that flickered like old film stock. He could see glimpses through it: dusty streets, police sirens, young people marching with cardboard signs. His real world, still broken, still cruel, but alive. He stepped through. The air snapped back into place like a rubber band. He was on his back in the Karoo again, the sun a blazing god overhead. The artifact was gone. So was Ikapia. Only the red dust remained. Later, as he walked back toward the nearest train station, he didn't feel heroic. He didn't feel wise. He felt hollow. But when he reached Johannesburg weeks later, he began to speak. Not about the time mouth. Not at first. He told people what they already feared: that a quick revolution without healing would only spill more blood. That forgiveness was not surrender. That memory was a weapon, but also a mirror. Some laughed. Some accused him of betrayal, but some listened. And in the crowd one night, standing by the shadows, he thought he saw her again. Candy with eyes like lit candles. Themba's words spread, not like fire, but like seeds, quiet and unnoticed, until one day they bloomed in minds hungry for something more than war. He didn't speak to the politicians. He didn't trust them. Instead, he spoke at community centers, to young activists, tired parents, janitors, students. He told them that history could be rewritten, not with bullets, but with memory. And memory, like land, needed to be tended, or it would grow wild and devour its keepers. But the truth was heavier than hope. At night, he dreamed of the other world, the one where Mandela's face was carved into walls, not as a saint, but a soldier, where Sipho's name was printed on memorials instead of birthday cards, where Candy walked not as a guide, but as a warning. And slowly, those dreams began to shift. One night, he woke up gasping. The walls of his flat had melted into the time mouth, and he was there again. Except this time, it wasn't the Civil War version. This one was worse. There were no roads, no signs, only fog and whispers. Dozens of Madibas, all different. One smiling in a prison jumpsuit, another with burning eyes and military fatigues, another sobbing in a suit with blood on his collar. Memory fractured. The past had shattered into hundreds of versions, all bleeding into one another. Candy appeared, hovering slightly above the dust. "You went back," she said, "but part of you didn't. You fractured." Themba held his head. He could feel the wrong versions of himself. A killer, a coward, a martyr. A man who betrayed Mandela to the cops. A man who led a coup. "This is the memoryscape," Candy said softly. "The place between choices." "Why am I here again?" he asked. "Because you're trying to change history, but you're still angry." He looked around dizzy. "I don't want this world. I don't want the war world. I want the real one, but better." "There is no real one," she said. "Only the one you return to." Then in a whisper, "But there is a way to rewrite it. One last chance. A deeper mouth." "What's the cost?" She didn't answer. She just walked, barefoot, into a spiral drawn into the dust. The glyphs on the ground glowed softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Themba followed. Inside the spiral, everything stopped. He opened his eyes in Cape Town, 1990. But not the 1990 he remembered. Here, Mandela had just been released. That was right. But something was different. People were quiet. There were no massive celebrations, no dancing in the streets. The city seemed anxious. He picked up a paper. "Mandela refuses reconciliation deal. Calls for total reformation." His heart sank. He was in another version again. One very close to his own, but not quite. He wandered the streets, trying to find someone who remembered his past. A familiar shopkeeper, a neighbor, even Dineo. No one did. In this world, reconciliation never happened. The TRC had been proposed and rejected. The ANC had won elections, but tensions had deepened. Racial violence had waned, but economic revenge filled the void. White flight led to capital collapse. Infrastructure decayed. Civil war hadn't come, but something worse had. A slow rot, a bitter stalemate. Everyone blaming the past and no one building the future. And then he saw his mother, alive. He hadn't seen her in 5 years. In his world, she died during the '87 unrest. She didn't recognize him here. She blinked at him, confused. "You look like Sipho," she said. He nearly collapsed. Was this another version of her, or the real one? Was this world more real than the one he left? He begged Candy to come back. For days he called to her in dreams, in his mind. She came on the 7th night. "I'm losing track," Themba said. "Which is the real world?" "They all are," she replied. "And none are. You chose to walk the spiral. Now you carry all yourselves. I just want my world again." She gave him a long look. "Then you must return to the root." "What is that?" "The first split. The first memory you wish to change." He blinked. "Mandela's release?" "No," she said. "Your brother's death." Part 3. The spiral's root. Candy guided him through memory. Not walking, becoming. Each step not taken in space but in choice. He was 10 years old again. Watching Sipho run barefoot through the fields behind their house. He was 14, listening to his brother speak to the student union, fearless. He was 16, hearing the door kicked in. The boots, the screams. Sipho being dragged away. He was 20, finding the journal. Then, a new path. He remembered something he'd forgotten, or maybe ignored. That night when the police came, Sipho had whispered something. "Run to the shed, protect the mouth." He'd been too scared. He'd hidden in the cupboard. He'd let the artifact be taken. And that, Candy said, was the true fracture. "You weren't meant to find the time mouth later," she said. "You were meant to guard it, protect it." Sipho knew. The state took it and began experimenting with memory tech. That's what caused the multiverse fracture. Themba's heart raced. "You mean this is all my fault?" "No," Candy said, "but your fear let them in." Tears rolled down his cheeks. "I want to fix it," he said, "then return to that night, just once more." The room filled with shadow and fire. Police shouting, Sipho resisting, and this time, Themba ran, not to the cupboard, to the shed. He found the artifact hidden beneath a pile of old coal sacks. He felt it pulse in his hands, a warmth, a pull. As the police shouted for backup, he lifted it and vanished into candy. He emerged into a world of silence, pure, untouched. He stood on the edge of time itself, a flat plain, no sky, no color, just memory. Candy was there, but not alone. So was Sipho. He gasped. "I'm alive?" Sipho asked. Candy nodded. "This is the origin point, the world before split." "You mean we can choose again?" Themba asked. "No," she said. "You can plant a seed, but you won't see it grow." "What does that mean?" "It means one of you must stay here, to guard the mouth, to ensure no one fractures it again." Themba looked at his brother. Tears welled. Sipho smiled. "Let me do it. You have the memories now. You can speak for us all." "No, you have to let me go, just like I did before. Only this time it means something." They embraced. Then Sipho stepped forward, into the artifact, into Candy, and was gone. Themba woke up in his world, 1994. Mandela had just voted for the first time. The line stretched for miles. Dineo waved from the crowd. His mother was dead. Sipho was gone. But peace had come. Slow, painful, imperfect, but real. He walked into the crowd carrying nothing but memory, and far in the distance Candy watched, smiling at last. Themba grew old but never settled. After the elections, he refused political office, even though the ANC approached him. He taught in townships instead, history, literature, memory. Not the kind found in textbooks, but the kind hidden in family photos, in the voices of the tired, in the way people looked at scars and saw not shame, but survival. People called him eccentric. Some whispered that he had visions. He didn't deny it. In his lectures, he told stories of worlds that might have been, of timelines that tried to run faster than pain could heal. He warned of shortcuts. He praised slow victories. And always at the end, he would say, "History is a song. You can change the verse, but only if you know the rhythm." One day in 2010, while clearing out his old belongings, he found it again. Not the artifact itself, it was gone, but a spiral, drawn in faint red chalk, underneath a stack of old leaflets from the 80s. And next to it, a word etched into the wood. Candy. He sat down, trembling. It had been years since he'd seen her, since that last moment in the plane between memory and time, since Sipho had chosen to stay behind. He whispered, "Are you still there?" No answer, just a soft breeze through the open window. But that night, as he walked home through the darkened streets of Johannesburg, he thought he saw something at the edge of a mural. A flicker of red braids, a flash of yellow eyes. A child nearby stopped drawing and looked up. "Who's that girl in the wall?" she asked, pointing. Themba smiled faintly. "Someone who remembers everything." 20 years later, Karoo Desert. A child, Zinzi, age 12, wandered from her school's field trip, following the strange humming in the rocks. She didn't know what drew her toward the kopje or why her fingers tingled when she stepped on the flat stone. Below her feet, something pulsed. She knelt. A spiral, a soft wind, even though the day was still. Then a voice just behind her, female, light as birdsong. "Do you remember?" Zinzi turned. The woman with red braids stood there smiling, as if she had always been. Final note, histories are not fixed. They live in us, move through us, and occasionally, if we are brave, allow us to sing them differently. Themba's truth was not the only one, but it was enough to heal a wound that might have swallowed a nation whole. And the mouth still waits, but now someone is listening.